Dear students, welcome back to today's class. Now, before I start today's video, I'll request you to please go back to the earlier class and watch the video on SPSS data entry in the variable view very carefully. If you do not watch that video, you are not going to understand any single thing in this video because all of these videos are interconnected. Alright? So yes, I'm going to assume that you have watched the video. Now let's start the discussion for today. So in the last video, we finished here, right? So we entered all the information in the variable view. Now just to give you an overview here, in the variable view, we record information about the questions in our questionnaire. So we record all the variables that we have in our questions. And on the other hand, in the data view, we record the answers or responses provided by the respondents to our questionnaires. So in today's class, we are going to continue with data view. So let's click on data view first. So select data view. See, this is highlighted and the window has changed. So this is the place where we are going to record all of our responses provided by the respondents. Now trust me, this part is really easy. I mean, if variable view was really tough for you, compared to variable view entry, the data view entry is really easy to understand. So again, in this view, we are going to record our answers provided by the respondents. Now, before I start, let me tell you this. These two views, data view and variable view, are interconnected. Why? Let me take you back to the variable view. Now here, as you can see, we have 7 variables. Age, height, gender, educational qualification, height, Joker awesome, and hometown. Now please listen to me very carefully. Look at the screen. When I go to data view, if you notice carefully, you will see that we have all the names of the variables at the top of the columns. So each of these columns are named after the variable. So here we have age, height, gender, educational qualification, height bus 302, Joker awesome, and hometown. Now how did this happen? Did I write anything here? No. The moment I created a variable in the variable view, automatically the columns are named in the data view in this manner. Again, in the variable view, whenever I enter the variable names, automatically in the data view, each column is named after one single variable. So for now, understanding this much is enough. Now let's take a look at the data recording process. How are we going to record our answers in these cells? Now for that, we need to collect responses first, right? So we need to send out our survey to the respondents and ask them to provide answers to all the questions. So now let's assume that we have rolled out the survey and we have got responses from all our respondents. So let's go back to the questionnaire that we went through in the last class. Do you remember the questionnaire here? Yes, you are supposed to remember this questionnaire because this is the very questionnaire that we use to record all our questions and variables in the variable view. Now for your ease of understanding, I have added something else in this page. What did I do here? Here at the very bottom, I have provided all the codings that we used in the last class. If you remember, we coded male with 1, female with 2, and other with 3. And at the same time, we used all of these numbers for coding these options. I guess you know all of these already. Now let's move on to the next page. Yes, what did I do here? I have recorded some sample survey responses for SPSS data entry in this page. So here, I have assumed that we have sent these questions to 10 people. So I have sent the above mentioned questionnaire in the earlier page to 10 different people and I asked them to fill out the survey. Now obviously all of them maybe have filled out the Google Forms. Now what I did here? Let's assume I went through each of these Google Forms and created a table containing all the responses from the different people. So just to explain here, in the first row, here is the first respondent. So let's assume that the first questionnaire was filled out by me. Now, according to the survey questionnaire, I filled out that my age is 50, my height is 100, my gender is male, I have no education, and I hate bus 02 course. Yes, I strongly agreed with that statement. Then Joker is an awesome movie. I also strongly agreed with that statement. And finally, my hometown is in Dhaka. By the way, all of these responses are randomly chosen. Alright, so don't worry. So what did I do here? In the first cell, I recorded all the responses provided by me. So maybe I went through each of the options in the Google form and I looked at these answers and then created this table. Now, if you don't want to create this table, it's completely fine. What you can do is you can take a look at the Google Forms and directly from that page, you can start recording your answers to the SPSS software in the data view. I have created this table just to make it easily understandable for you. That's it. It's not mandatory for you to create such a table. Again, you can directly copy paste the answers or record the answers from the Google form or from the hard copy survey to the SPSS software. It's completely alright. Now let's take a look at the other respondents. So here we have Monem as a respondent, Cynthia as another respondent, then we have Abdullah, Rifa, Naziba, Fatima, Motasim, Otri and Rukaya. So in the same manner, I have recorded all of these responses provided by these respondents. So in summary, this is the table that contains all the responses provided by all of these 10 respondents to all of my questions. So what I'm going to do now, from here, I'm going to record all of these responses to my SPSS software in the data view. So without further delay, let's start the data entry process. So let's start with this respondent, the first one, JSH. So as you can see here, his age is 50. So let's go back to SPSS, go back to data view, and here I'm going to start my data entry process. Now, as you can see, on the left hand side, we have 1. So this whole row is indicated by this 1, and in this whole row, we are going to record all the responses provided by the first respondent. Again, in this whole row, we are going to record all the responses provided by the first respondent, which is JSH in this case. So let's start. So in the first cell, we are going to record, as it is mentioned here, age. What is the age of the first respondent? 50. Enter. Next, what is the height of the first respondent? Let's go back and check. It's 100. So let's record 100. Enter. Next, what is the gender of the first respondent? Now, if you remember, we coded the gender variable, right? So for male, if you remember, we used 1. So you can type 1 here. Enter. Why did we type 1 here? Again, for gender, we coded the male option with 1 and the female option with 2 and the other option with 3. So whenever someone responds as male, I have to code it with 1 here. So I have to record it with 1. Now let's move on to the next question. Educational qualification. Now let's go back and check. So yes, JSH does not have any educational qualification. So no education. Now what was the code for this question? Now if you forget, what you can do is you can go back and then click on the variable view. Here you can come under the values column and then click here. See, the details comes up. So no education was coded by 1. So I can easily check that. So once the checking is done, then I select OK. I go back to my data view and then I record 1 in the education and qualification column. That's it. Now let's move on to the next question. Hate bus CO2. Let's go back and check the answer. It was strongly agree. Now again go back. Let's say we have again forgotten the code for this option. So let's go back to the variable view. Let's come up here, click here, and then check. Strongly agree stands for 1. So the checking is done again. So select OK, go back to data view, and then here under the hate bus CO2 column, type 1, and then enter. Now let's move on to the next question. Joker awesome. Let's go back to the questionnaire. Here we can see that again it's strongly agree. So it's going to be 1 again. So let's go back to SPSS and here type 1. Enter. And finally we have the hometown question. Now let's go back to the questionnaire. Here the response was Dhaka. So again let's go back. Let's say we have again forgotten this option. So let's go back to the variable view. Let's come under the values column And as you can see from here, without even clicking here, that 1 stands for Dhaka. So let's go back to the data view, come here and then type 1. Enter. So yes, we are done recording all the responses for the first respondent. It's that easy. So just to give you a brief idea, in the data view, we record all the responses provided by the respondents. And again in the data view, each row stands for every single respondent. So in each row, we record all the responses of one single respondent. Now here, we are done with the first respondent. In the same manner, we are going to record the responses of all the other respondents here. Now before that, let me show you an awesome trick right now. Now let's go a little bit up here. Don't click here, just wait for a little bit. See, a label appeared and it was called value labels. This is very important. What happens here? Click on this option once. See what happened below? All the codes are now showing the actual answers. So 1 stood for male, it is showing male here. Again, here 1 stood for no education is showing here. Then again, 1 stood for strongly agree here, we can see strongly agree here as well. And finally, 1 stood for Dhaka here, we can see Dhaka as well. So whenever we click on this option, we can switch between these two views. So if I click on this option once again, the actual answers disappear and the codes reappear again. So again, by clicking on this option, we can switch back between these two views. Let me do that once again. So I click here once again. See, I see the actual responses once again. And finally, if I click one more time, the numbers come back. So at one time, if we want to recheck our answers, whether the code is correct, we can just click on this option and have a cross check. Now, besides this, there is another beautiful part of this button. I'm going to show you this beautiful option very soon. For now, let's keep it this way, alright? And I'm going to show you the beautiful functionality in the very next recording process. Now, let's move on to the next respondent, respondent number 2. So who was the next respondent? Let's go back and check. So yes, we have Monem here. So his age is 18 and height is 185. So let's go back. So under age, we are going to record 18. And under height, we are going to record 185. Now let's move on to gender. Let's go back and check what the gender came out. I'm really sorry, it's showing female here. But again, please let me assure you that it is completely randomized. Please do not mind, because it's very difficult to fill each and every cell manually, alright? So please don't mind, Monem. I'm really sorry for this. So yes, let's assume the gender response is female here. Now let's go back. Now here, usually we could have recorded 1. Now in this view, when we have actual responses on and this button pressed right here, what we can do here is we can select the male option directly. How? Just click on this cell one time. Just click right here. See, a drop down icon appears. Again, a drop down icon or a drop down list appears. So click on this option one more time. See, this list now shows all of the options. So that's the beauty of it. So from here, you can select female. And then we are done. So that is the beauty of it. Whenever we have this function on, we can just select from the list. Let me show you that option one more time. Now let's move on to the educational qualification cell. Now let's go back and check the response. Here, Monem's educational qualification is SSC. Now let's go back and record the response. Now just as before, click here, the drop down icon appears, and then click once more, and then from here you select SSC, and then enter. Done. It's that easy. In the same manner, let's move on to Hate Bus 302. So again, let's go back and check the response. So here we have strongly agree, neutral, and select. So just in order to save time, I'm trying to memorize all of the responses to the next 3 questions. So strongly agree, neutral, and select. So let's go back. So here we are going to select strongly agree. Here we are going to select neutral, enter, and finally here we are going to select, enter. See, it's that easy once again. So in the same manner, we finish the recording process for the next respondent as well. Now let's move on to the other respondent. In the same manner, I'm going to show you the recording process for the next two respondents only. And I'm sure after just seeing the recording process for the next two respondents, you yourself will be able to fill out all the cells for the remaining respondents. So that's sort of your homework, alright? Now let's start with the third respondent. Let's go back to the questionnaire and see the recording. So for Cynthia, we have the third respondent. So here the responses are 20, 148, male, no education. I'm sorry, again it's randomized. I'm really sorry, Cynthia. So 20, 148, male and no education. So let's come back. We have 20, enter, 148, enter, then click here, select male, enter, and then in the next cell, click here and then select no education, enter. Now let's go back to the questionnaire once again. So the other responses are neutral, disagree, and Kumilla. So let's go back. Let's select neutral, enter. Next, let's select disagree, enter, and then finally let's select Kumilla, enter. See, the recording process again is very easy. Now let's move on to the final respondent for today's class. Let's go back to the questionnaire. So here we have Abdullah. So the responses are 20, 145, male and no education. Let's go back. So here we have 20, 145, and then we have male, and finally we have no education. Now let's go back to the questionnaire once again. So the remaining responses are disagree, agree, and Rajshahi. So let's go back. So the first one is disagree, enter. The second one is agree, enter. And the final one is Rajshahi, enter. So yes, we have recorded all the responses for the remaining respondents. Now for your ease of understanding, I'm going to show you the recording process for the next respondents, but it's going to be in the fast forward version, alright? So it's going to be very fast without any voice. So if you want to check, you can go through it very fast, or you can just skip this part, alright? So let's start. So yes, we are done recording all the responses of all the 10 respondents. So congratulations. So the data view entry is done. So finally, for all the responses, our variable view is ready and our data view is ready as well. So this is how we complete the recording process in SPSS software. Now in the very next video, I'm going to show you how to do statistical analysis using SPSS software. That's the most important part. So once your data recording is done, now you are ready for statistical analysis on that data. So see you very soon in the next video.